People with hair and people without, welcome, one and all, to Trump changing the course of history. So over here we have Lord Voldemort himself, who just dropped an entire video, not from his stream. He decided to record this separately. Have you noticed the vibe shift? I have. Now, I have a very interesting analysis that is, it's a good one in my opinion, and I think that everyone should definitely listen to what I have to say as someone that can predict reality itself. It's in your best interest. The world has evolved to the point that anti-establishment will always be superior. The establishment is so corrupt, it's so garbage, it's so pushing propaganda down people's throats, anti-establishment will always win. In my opinion, the biggest reason why Trump won the election is because he was anti-establishment. And I think that absolutely rocketed him into a successful seat at this point. So, Lord Voldemort himself has dropped this video, and I'm curious to hear him talk about the vibe shift. Because, simply put, in the past, you would never see people like anyone actually be willing to talk about politics online because they were always afraid it would hurt their bottom line. Now everyone is upfront and able to talk about this except for pussies. Pussies don't do that. But as a non-pussy myself, we're gonna dive right into it, baby. Chaotic neutral. I am all for anti-establishment. So, all right, let's go, baby.
Hey guys, today I wanted to talk to you.
Oh my god, holy shit, that audio quality, bro. Dude, Asmongold is the only channel on the platform that the thumbnail. Bro, you can hear the audio quality in the thumbnail. All right, bro, dude, yes. This is what I'm talking about. 100% every time. All right, that's definitely going into the collage. All right.
You all about what I believe to be probably the biggest cultural shift that we have ever seen.
Yep.
If you're anywhere around my age, except for maybe September 11th. I think that
September 11th was big. Yep, true. But yeah, since then, I feel like the establishment has just been getting stronger and stronger and more brazen about the absolute fucking bullshit about just promoting fake shit. Like, I think that they are so comfortable promoting falsities. At this point, I don't even think any establishment mainstream media platform even tries to make believe they care about reporting the truth. They literally only report things to herd people in specific directions, and finally people are waking up to that shit.
This cultural shift has been observed now for about 2 to 3 years, and when it really was codified as like, yeah, this is happening, it's when Trump won the U.S. election.
That's what I'm saying as well. I think Trump winning the U.S. election is an actual historical turning point. It's like finally people waking up and realizing that this establishment bullshit is gone. And it's not working. And I hope that the left adopts this as well, because I think a world with actual honesty being broadcasted and people not being willing to believe the obvious propaganda would make it a better world for everyone. Now, listen, it had to be Trump, I guess. It had to be someone as wacky and out there as Trump to do this shit. But, you know.
And now, in the aftermath of that, I think that you can very clearly see people are emboldened by that, they're galvanized by it, and people are much more willing to share their viewpoints on things that have been much more conservative, much more traditional than what I think a lot...
I mean, if you think about it, the crazy thing is, nice fantasy world, boss. Shut up, bro! Okay, I like my fantasy worlds. That's why we're doing lore dives on Nux Taku now. All right, it's official. We're moving the Lore Dive series to Nux Taku. But this man is spitting. He is spitting. Suddenly, you can actually say things and not immediately just get backlash. Cancel culture. People like saying that we're now in like an era where cancel culture is at a zenith. They're all wrong. Cancel culture does not exist anymore. Because at this point, you could say anything online and get away with it. You have actual successful content creators that literally build their brand on Holocaust denial, which is obviously insane to any person at all. But it is pretty wild.
a lot of people would, expect or maybe have you believe. And so I wanted to talk today about why that actually happened, why I think it happened, and where the culture is going to be going from this perspective, right? From this direction.
All right, let's go.
And so anyway, the first thing you have to do in order to explain where it's going to go is to explain where it came from. So the reason why I think a lot of this happened...
COVID. 100% COVID. It has to be. There's nothing else in my mind, in our lifetime, I think, that was such an obvious media failure like COVID. The way they said that COVID was going to last 2 months and then it lasted 2 years. The way they said that there were like no side effects to vaccines and then there were side effects to vaccines. Like the way that they would shut people down if they would have like even a remotely edgy theory about COVID, like they would immediately destroy them. It was the canary in the coal mine.
And we've had a shift.
I'm sure he's going to say the same thing. Because in my opinion, that was the most obvious case of like media censoring free speech opinion of all time. Remember the toilet paper fiasco? Australia ran out of toilet paper?
Before I do that, I'll also explain where I think this shift is coming from. I think that we are shifting away from a more censorship heavy, more censored speech heavy, compelled speech heavy. And I think that
And if you look at the current election, right, the Trump versus Harris thing, I think it was incredibly obvious that people, even the people that are in the center, voted Trump because while both candidates are not ideal in the slightest, ultimately, at least the Trump side of the force lets you have free speech. And the other side of the force really is very establishment, very censorship heavy. So it is kind of wild.
You're seeing a lot of backlash against, what were considered to be like, protected types of thinking and protected groups of people. You're seeing a tremendous amount of backlash against it. And I think this is mainly evidenced on Twitter, but you can see this in YouTube comments. You can see this in comment sections of any game or like any video.
I mean, I think that the comment sections have always been like that. So for me, it's not super telling that the masses are willing to either be more conservative or be more liberal or have a specific political opinion. For me, that's not the weird part. For me, the weird part is that content creators, that people with platforms are comfortable saying this shit. Because while there's some anonymous guy in a comment section, they're never going to have accountability if they say some insanely, like, abhorrent crap. Like, they literally can drop death threats in there and shit, and they will be fine. No backlash will ever come to them. But for people in the, YouTube sphere, like, actual content creators that are comfortable talking about this, that aren't specifically in politics genres, but are comfortable talking about politics, it definitely makes it look like there is this paradigm shift that somehow we are returning speech to the people. And without free speech, it's not a free country, god damn it. And it is kind of wild that somehow the Republicans became the champions of free speech when it should be literally everyone. Dude, it's like, I wish the left wasn't so fragmented. It's so insane. Thanks for the raid, Senpai.
I think that in general, you're just seeing a massive backlash against what people believe to be authoritarian levels of compelled thought and compelled speech. And big surprise, where did compelled thought and compelled speech come from? Where was the genesis of that recently?
Okay, so I think it's always been like that. It's just people are finally recognizing. All right, this is the incredible Nux analysis. All right, you ready for the incredible Nux analysis? There's always been propaganda. People have always been led to believe certain things. History has always been written by the victor, and the king has always decided the course of action for their people. That said, I think people started really noticing at COVID time, but it's always been there. It's just finally the mask is falling off.
Definitely from COVID.
Yeah.
And I think collectively
100%.
the government and the social media websites, the way that they handled people that were dissenters during COVID, the way that they handled that.
Not just dissenters. I made COVID memes on my YouTube channel and got a community strike for it. Let me even see if I could find that video. It was so long ago, I doubt it. But I literally made a video memeing about COVID, like just making jokes about talking about the memes that were surrounding the whole COVID thing. And I got a community guideline strike. And that wasn't misinformation. That was just obvious bullshit. And memeing around. Like, I was literally reading memes. Like, the memes with, the impact font? Like, just regular memes?
caused a schism in the trust of the people into the government, into these companies, and
Mask
anything.
off.
And I don't think that schism, I don't think that disconnect is really going to be mended anytime soon. I think it's probably going to take 10 to 20 years for that trust to be rebuilt, because people would be hearing, oh, well, you know, it's going to take 2 years, or sorry, not 2 years.
2 months.
Excuse me, that's actually what it did take. 2 weeks to stop the spread, and just wear a mask.
Dude, everyone was doing this shit. Literally everyone was doing it. So I remember, actually, I was in Israel when COVID hit. And when COVID hit, I remember them saying it's probably going to be years. And I was like, what? That's insane. And I would look at like my classic, you know, every fucking person on the internet and on mainstream media, like in America, would all say, oh, 2 weeks, it's over. Just all you need to do is quarantine for 2 weeks and it's going to be over. It's going to be okay. And then I would talk to like people, like actual like doctors that I know with my Jew connections. And they would literally say, oh yeah, this is going to be years until it's dealt with. And it's like, ah!
This will solve it. Just take your vaccine. This will solve it. And I think that the messaging for COVID in general was very authoritarian in many cases. And I think that also there were countries besides the United States that were even more authoritarian with how they handled COVID. And because of that, guess what happened? You had a lot of people who were like, yeah, this is fucking bullshit. We don't believe this, and we want to be able to think for ourselves.
Yeah, the media literally...
And when they did that on social media, they got in trouble. Now, you can think that that's a good thing, or you can think it's a bad thing. I'm not really going to try to convince you one way or another, but I think that really the big shift for that was COVID is what really started building up that resentment. And then that resentment finally boiled over, and people were able to express it when I believe Elon Musk bought Twitter. Because before Elon Musk bought Twitter, there was almost no avenue on social media that you could actually speak your mind and give like a honest opinion on things, besides maybe 4chan, right?
Yeah,
on
that doesn't count.
Besides that, you couldn't really say what you think. You can't say it on Reddit. You can't say it on YouTube. YouTube is probably the most, the most liberal with that. You can pretty much say almost as much as you want. But, YouTube does still have a lot of restrictions, more so than Twitter, for example. You can't say what you want on Facebook. You can't say what you want on old Twitter. And basically all of these social media platforms that people used were used as basically tools to compel speech and to suppress people's thoughts. And I think that if you just...
I think more than that, it wasn't just to suppress thoughts, it was to insert thoughts. It was like a whole ass Inception situation. They would make you think a certain way by expressing it to you as if it was facts.
Just take a step back and you think about this from an abstract. I think that you need to come to the realization that people don't like being told what to think, to do, right? I mean, at the end of the day. And so anybody who's trying to take an authoritarian stance, trying to tell you what to do, you're going to automatically get a negative response from that, at least here in the United States.
Antiparasitic, not antiseptic. Whatever, I have dyslexia.
And so...
Point is, it's a human drug. I'm not saying it should be used for COVID, but they frame Joe Rogan as someone taking horse medicine. That's the point that I'm trying to make, okay? It's obviously bullshit.
That's happened, I think, as a result of COVID. Elon Musk buys Twitter, and now all of the people who didn't exist are making up for lost time. Like, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but holy shit.
The amount of misinformation and racism and hate and shit on Twitter that you couldn't get away with anywhere else is insane. Now, on the one hand, this is obviously awful for normal humans, because no one wants to wake up, open Twitter, and see a fucking 50,000 like tweet talking about how the Holocaust never happened or some shit. Like, obviously, no one wants to see that. Well, unless you hate Jews. Or unless you're a Twitch streamer. But aside from that, like, obviously no one wants that shit. That said, that's a side effect. You sent me a clip of Joe Rogan speaking about it? Okay.
You gotta make sure you have a fucking royal flush.
Well, dude, they did it with me with the COVID thing, with the ivermectin thing.
They did it with you with a lot of things.
They did, but the COVID one was crazy because they were all coordinated, calling it horse dewormer.
Right.
It's like every news organization was calling it horse dewormer and trying to mock me, like, hey guys, I can talk too. Like, are you fucking stupid?
Yeah.
Like but their whole game up until social media and up until podcasts was they were the only ones talking.
That's the
so
thing.
they could set a narrative
100%.
and no one could do anything about it. They could.
How do you counter something you see on the news? Like, where will you ever see a counter to the news? Never. Go against the news? It's the news. How can you disagree? It's just a fact. The media lies? No way!
Decide that you're a this or you're a that, and then they push that out there, and that was the end of it. Then you got labeled as this or that. But with podcasts got bigger than them, and they hadn't realized it yet.
By a lot.
And that definitely rang true, because as you can see, Trump, who went on the podcasts, he won the election. And Kamala Harris, who got $1 billion of advertisement from the fucking media, she lost. So ultimately, bro was just right.
There is a lot of racism on Twitter now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. And do you want to know why there's a lot of racism on Twitter? I'll
Tell us, old Nurgle, apostle of Nurgle.
tell you why. It's because there's a lot of racist people.
Sometimes simple answers get simple questions get simple solutions. Yeah, there are a lot of racist people. Yeah, I think it's kind of a pendulum swing. I think another reason why there's a lot of racism on Twitter is because for so long they were silenced about it. Now they can finally talk about it. And people are like, wow, this person is actually saying the thing that he wants to say. And because of the censorship of the last however many years, the last decades, right now, people see this shit and they're like, wow, this is what the media was hiding all along. And they're immediately going to have their conspiracy brain believe it. I think that the racism right now is only as popular as it is because the media has been just hiding human thoughts from people. God damn.
That's the reason anybody who can speak English all over the world, except for maybe a couple of countries, a few countries, probably more like it, can make a Twitter account and express exactly what they think. And so, big surprise, you're going to have people that live in totally different cultures expressing viewpoints that are not congruent with liberal Western values. And this has been a very, very upsetting reality for many people that use Twitter, but in my opinion, I find it to be a very sobering fact. I think it's extremely important to know what people are actually thinking.
Yeah, I also think it's a sobering fact, which is why I'm not on Twitter. Twitter is just it's a dumpster fire. On the one hand, I'm happy it exists and people are allowed to actually say, people are allowed to say what they want, and therefore actual truth does eventually come out, in my opinion. But there's so much bullshit and awfulness on Twitter, I don't feel like I need to be there. Like, I think, perfectly found the exact area I am happy to stand in. The butt crack of the world. With one rump on my right being the bullshit misinformation, the one rump on my left being the actual truth that is finally coming out, and me in the center not necessarily taking any part in any of it, but enjoying the reality that it is. I don't need to be on Twitter to see this shit, okay? Whatever's real will end up bouncing back to me at some point. So that's my recipe for mental health.
Rather than having a manicured, curated, and censored view of the world that immediately shatters whenever you introduce it to actual reality.
I think that is an important idea as well. I think so too. It's like if you see a person being an asshole from another culture, and they're not really an asshole, it's just their culture that sees things that way, well, then that's kind of just waking you up to realizing that not everyone on the planet is exactly like you. And I think that's okay.
Which is what I think happened with the 2024 election. I think that people imagined this was going to happen because all of the celebrities said this was going to happen. All of mainstream media said this was going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Baby! And then there was the red wedding.
It's actually something totally different. And I think that what this has really happened is that people are pushing back against basically, there is a false god of authoritarianism that a lot of people online have prescribed to. They have been worshiping this false god. And I think that they are doing that because their other previous gods were determined to be false. There's always the quote of God is dead from Nietzsche, but that's only half of the quote. The full quote is God is dead
because I killed him.
And we have killed him.
Yeah, that's it, man. Because ultimately, a lot of people, I think, didn't even know they were being mind controlled. And it was only over the last couple of years that they realized, wow, I was actually being mind controlled. I was actually living in a world where I had no idea how much falseness was around me. And because of that obvious mask slipping off, especially with the Trump victory, I am excited to see the future, wherever it takes us.
I think that this
hopefully not the World War III
society that's totally killed God. There's no sense of religion in culture anymore. And I think that's by the way, that's very upsetting for many people. Religion is a very reassuring thing for many people. I am not a religion enjoyer, personally. I think that you guys probably know that. I'm much more of an enlightened, euphoric atheist. But at the end of the day, I can recognize that it does have an ordering, I guess, like, function in a lot of people's lives. And so when you're taking that away...
Well, I don't know. I feel like it's really weird that he's, like, framing it in this way. I think on the one hand, you have the misinformation machine that people looked up to like some sort of false god. On the other hand, you have actual religion, which is, I think, very, very different, in my humble opinion. Religion is more of a code of ethics than it is necessarily a mind control device. It's the evil people in specific religions that use religions as a mind control device. But I think religions inherently are much more of just an ethical structure. And at least in my humble opinion, as a not political analyst, but just a chaotic neutral piece of shit over here. Yeah, so I do kind of hear where he's coming from. I feel like he's blending what religion is and what people use religion as sometimes when he discusses it.
Away from people, and they don't have access to what would be a way to order the universe and a way to see how things are. They're going to invent their own way to order things. And I think that the way that they did that was they replaced religion with political dogma. And I think this has happened in a lot of cases. And really, people that attack...
they replaced religion with political dogma, you say. I think people generally, inherently, people need a lot of people need a structure or a system. And now that system could be anything. And that system could take the form as religion. The system could take the form as a bunch of bros hanging out. That system could take the form as atheism. I think atheism is also a system that some people can connect to. But since people desire inherently some kind of order, some kind of group setting, some kind of group of people that can make you feel more wholesome about yourself, I think that in general, people need some kind of system to structure themselves with. I don't think that's a religion. Now, some people use religion to do it, and some people might use something else to do it. But I think saying that political dogma is a religion is obviously, I think, maybe metaphorical. He's referring to the fact that people feel the need for that structure. Maybe? Question mark? Don't know what he's saying?
Attach their meaning and like their identity and like their feelings onto these different movements. I think that for many of them, they're looking for something that religion or some form of like existential reassurance would give them. And I think that the movements, whether it's a political movement, whether it's a social movement, whether it's a social cause, I think that those movements actually for a lot of people now are filling the place that religion previously had.
See, I do think he's right on that point, because I think people do need systems. A lot of people need systems, whether it's in their real life, whether it's in their online life, whether it's in their friend life. People need the reassurance from people around them. So that I respect that take. I think he's right. Now, a lot of people will find their systems in different places with like-minded people, and that could take the form of a religion. It could take the form as anything. It's a like community type thing. Humans need community. Systems are ultimately communities. They don't necessarily need to be in your neighborhood. They could just be a train of thought that you're ascribing yourself to. But I think he's right. In the past, though, these systems were literally controlled by a giant media machine that didn't have any way to actually check. You had no way to check these fucking media shits and put them in their place when they were obviously lying. And now you can. And I think because people feel like their last structure fell apart, they now are heading towards another structure that they feel like they could be in place with. Now, I'm not going to say that there's no fucking misinformation on the right. There's a massive amount of misinformation everywhere. But by the fact that it's at least anti-establishment, and you know the establishment is bullshit, people are going to head down that path. And
I think that if you don't think that's true, just look at how they fucking defend them. I swear to God, there's people, you get less pushback from blasphemy in a lot of churches. And so, yes, people get very, very, very attached to these things because they built their entire identity off of them. And I think also this is especially true with young people. And with young people, it's that they've had...
I think it's all people. Now, I like chaos. I like the idea that I like to make believe I'm a free thinker, even though I have people in my comment section when they see me making fun of people having meltdowns in public. Oh, he fell down the alt-right pipeline. It's over for Nuxanor. He's cooked. He's making fun of someone that's literally losing their mind and shaving their head because the orange retard won. It's like, alt-right pipeline. What's next? Is he gonna go full Nazi? Damn, Jewish Nazis out there, they go crazy. Brrr. Yeah, so I've been getting a lot of really good comments lately. I've been enjoying them a lot. But no, I think he is more or less right with this take that people do want a fucking system and a support system.
Had unironic arrested development from COVID. And I think this is true not just for, it's like, oh, the kids are retarded. No.
But the last support system did fail.
Oh, I think this has happened for a lot of people, including young adults. And so you have people that spend, let's say the ages of, like 15 to 18 locked down in COVID. Well, big fucking surprise. Whenever they turn 18, they're not going to know how to act. And they're going to probably still be acting like 15-year-olds.
Partially. I don't know. I don't think you can always take agency away from these people. If they're 18 and they're an adult, even if they were in COVID for 2 years and 2 formative years, to say that they have the right now to act like fucking bitches and losers is, in my opinion, a destructive thing. I do think that it was bad for these people, but you can't take their obvious social ineptitudes and blame it on some external factor. At some point, you're gonna have to treat them like adults. I know that might be a hot take, but the thing is, I think what hurted these people, it's not the fact that they were locked in from COVID. It's the fact that their support system came from an external source on the internet. Now that you have people being raised by internet figures, right? I don't want to talk to some dude and he'll be like, oh yeah, so I was just eating Lunchly while drinking Prime and watching the new episode of the Talk to a podcast. I am literally so in vogue, bro. And it's like, dog, you gotta find some fucking people out there that you could communicate with in real life, okay? Please.
And so you have people that have been developmentally, basically arrested, and they've taken...
I think he means stunted.
Taken 3 years of like social development and socialization, and just pretty much outsourced it to a social media website.
That's the point. It's the fact that people's social ideas and ethics are purely built by their fucking communities that they manage to join online. Like, bro, you got your Andrew Taters, and you got your fucking super mega wokers, and you got your fucking insane shit people that literally have somehow fallen into different rabbit holes and completely maintain that ideology. But again, that is the structure they found for themselves, because for whatever reason, their real life structure was shit, because parents don't feel like parenting anymore.
That's fed them a worldview that's completely distorted. It doesn't represent anything in real life. And now they go into real life, and the dissonance between what they believe the world should be and what the world is gets bigger
right.
and bigger, and I think it makes people angrier and angrier.
He's so right. He's so real. Like, every time I would turn on the news, and I would see people talking about how Trump is literally Hitler, the MAGA people are literally all Nazis, it is an authoritarian regime, they are bringing back Holocaust 2, it's gonna be crazy, the new Holocaust DLC has literally just been implemented, it's wild. And then you go and look at other people talking about how every single person on the right, they're all racist, they're bigots, they hate people that aren't exactly like them. If you're black, if you're Latino, if you're Jewish, you are cooked, it's Jover. And then you go into real life, and real life's just not like that. And so you have this massive dissonance of people talking about issues that just aren't real issues half the time.
And I think that that's really where a lot of the hostility is coming from. It's the refutation of those types of people that have used political dogma and social, like socio-political issues, and they've replaced religion with these things. It is a pushback against those people. And the reason why I think this pushback is happening is very simple. It's because people just don't want to hear what they're saying, 100%. And they don't agree with it. It's not just...
it's not just that people don't agree with things that are saying. I think that a lot of their things are actually verifiably false and not real for most people's daily life, right? When people want to see politicians talk about shit that matters to them, right? Like you want to go to the grocery store and be able to afford food, right? You want to pay rent. You want to actually be able to buy a house in your lifetime. How many people are in their minds are like, well, I will never be able to buy a house. Like, that's fucking insane, right? Like, hello? Why is that not the main issue that, like, you're talking about? I don't know, basic shit.
Really, it's actually just that simple. And so for a long time, you were not able to express your disagreements. You were not able to tell anybody that, like, yeah, I don't actually think this is true. This isn't really what's happening. And because you would get banned. But that all changed when Elon Musk bought Twitter. Because when Elon Musk bought Twitter...
That was a radical change in the course of history. I think, honestly, Trump's victory is insane. The Trump situation is wild, is what I'm trying to say. Like, he actually did... His victory did, I think, make people recognize the fact that the mainstream cults are not going to work anymore. And I think that we're going to see a future of both parties so much more heavily focused on populism and talking to people and actually being real people instead of just hiding behind the mask. And I think that at least that's a positive.
Everybody who had an opinion was able to say what that opinion was.
True,
for better or for worse.
True. You got a lot of wild morons out there. That is for sure. That's very real. That's, yeah, better or for worse. But at least you can actually say what you think, which is not something that you were used to say. Dude, Trump got banned on Twitter before Elon Musk bought it. Like, they banned the president of the United States on Twitter. It's wild, bro.
And I think that we've seen a lot of both of those. And so now what we've had is that we have tons of people that feel, uniquely emboldened in a way that they hadn't really in probably 10 years on social media, given the level of censorship and control. And now people are going and saying what they really think. And I think that they're doing so in a manner that is making up for lost time. And another big component for this is that I think that there has been what I would really kind of refer to as emotional blackmail that's been going on for a very, very long time, where you can't have certain opinions about certain topics because it can be perceived as being mean, or you can be seen as a bad person.
True. There's your cancel culture shit, which has never really worked, except people used to think it did. I'm hoping that at least right now, people are recognizing that cancel culture is not a real thing.
I think that there's been a level of fatigue that is caused for people, and it's like eventually, for example, somebody thinking that they don't want illegal immigrants in their country, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're like a racist or a Nazi.
What? That's crazy! No, everyone literally will take one claim and hyperbolize it to such a wild and insane extent. Like, I think my favorite example of this, even though I hate when other people bring it up, is like you'll have someone like Joe Rogan or whatever saying that trans women shouldn't be in women's sports because they have a biological advantage. And then and then people will paint it at, wow, you want a trans genocide? And it's like, whoa! I never said anything like that. Oh, Lord. Wow, that's an extreme way to fucking... All right. But yeah, so I think that's like a classic example. You can't say anything even towing the line to a certain way, and everyone's scared to say their real opinions because people will literally just hyperbolize it to an insane degree.
And so because of that and the emotional escalation and the emotional blackmail that people use in order to try to force people into having these certain types of worldviews, the optics of these arguments oftentimes become more important than the arguments themselves.
True.
It's kind of like what I've said before.
It's about picking a side. It's always been about picking a side and never about, the actual discussion point. No one cares about the discussion point. Like, for me, my favorite thing is if I ever talk to somebody and literally every single one of their opinions are exact mirrors of the talking points of a political party, in my opinion, that person is literally a bottom feeder. Literally a bottom feeder. You are literally a parasite. You have no opinions that are actually of your own. Okay? Like, it has got to be... It is wild. I like people that think. So if every single one of your opinions matches a political party, then bro, What is happening, dude?
The strongest argument isn't an argument. Many people do not operate based off of logic or reasoning.
True.
They operate based off of emotion
True.
and feeling. And big surprise, that's been what's taken over a lot of things. And also, this is a very important component. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It's not like this is totally going away. I think that we're just replacing one form of this behavior with another. And
Again, but I think that this other one is a lot more of a masked off form than the previous one. Like, listen, I'm not going to make believe that I think tariffs make sense. I am no political analyst, but I think the tariff thing that Trump wants to implement doesn't make sense to me at all. It's like the reason why people are paying for goods in China is because it's cheaper. So if you're going to stop paying for goods in China and you're going to start paying for things here, they're going to be more expensive. It's going to, in my opinion, cause more inflation. But I am no political analyst and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But like, as a simple example, I don't get that at all. So it's not like every single opinion by every single party is something that should be mirrored by people that do respect certain parts of those parties. And second, I think that he's just right.
And that's very worrisome to me. And I think that really what's going to continue to happen is you're going to have more people pushing back against, established social norms as much as possible and making a push more towards traditionalism, more towards conservatism. And I think that this is also happening again because of that lack of meaning and culture. You don't have the same shared culture that something like a religion provides. And because of that, you're having tons of people that don't know what to do with their life. They don't know who they are. They don't know what their identity is because the previous things and previous lives that have given them that identity are now being taken away or have been taken away. I think probably the best example of that is with jobs. So when somebody has their job replaced by...
By the way, I'm just letting you know, I have an incredibly different opinion on jobs than Asmongold. I've heard him talk about jobs in the past, how he's looking forward to a utopic future where no one has to work anymore. And I have a very different opinion on that whole thing than he does. But anywho...
AI or replaced with automation, and they're not able to get a new one or something like that, and they are disconnected from the value of their work, I think that, again, there's something that's existential that's taken away from that person because now they no longer can take pride and take pleasure in the idea that they have done good work and they are contributing to their community or they are doing something that's positive. And, of course, obviously, why is that? Number one, it's because a lot of these jobs are, computer jobs, and so it's not really as directly evident in the same way that, you can do something that's more physical.
What kind of an argument is that? Wait, what? What is he talking about?
That's number one. And then also number two is they're not really being paid very well. So you have people that have shitty jobs. They're not being paid very well. And guess what? They're looking for some form of meaning in life and somebody to tell them that that worldview is not going to last.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think, are looking for that meaning in life, and that is the system that you want to combine with. Again, whether it's a political system, or it's a social system, or it's a religious system, people want systems.
Things are going to keep getting better, and anybody that sells that person a solution is going to have a lot of fucking buyers. And I think that's very clearly what's happened. So what I expect to see happen now is that you're going to see probably a lot of people who have been pushing back against the culture of cancel culture and people getting, banned for having wrong opinions on things. Obviously,
people getting banned for having wrong opinions. I can't think of a single person that would get banned because of the wrong opinions. I cannot think of a single person that this would happen to, but hypothetically, if it would have happened.
It'll still happen sometimes. I don't know. Maybe I've got an example of that one way or another.
Yeah.
But I think that, of course, sometimes that will still happen, but it has been much less common. And you're even seeing things like, I think that another benchmark for this is that, you can look back at the Hogwarts Legacy, the debacle with that and how angry everybody was with J.K. Rowling. And now that there's a new Harry Potter project, the studio that's doing it has even said, it's her freedom of speech. She can think what she wants. And so
that's just a fact.
I think that is a tremendous divergence from what previously...
that is literally evolving. Okay? I don't care what the frick you say, but it is such a much healthier culture that you're not going to have game studios or whatever, or TV studios literally blackmailed by insane people on the internet that are going to police you and police the people that you work with because they have different opinions than you and shit like that. and to police you and force you into doing specific things. This culture is dying. It is dying. We are at a turning point of history. The Sweet Baby Ink is cooked, and we are living in a turning point of history. And I think Trump proved that there are enough people that don't like this shit, that it's no longer going to be profitable enough for these gaming companies to buckle to it. Again, I think that money is the driver for most of these things. So when money is always the driver for this shit, the game companies at some point are going to be like, yeah, I'd rather just, grift to the other side instead of grifting to your side. And that's it. And that will be the end. Because it's not going to be financially or, reputationally viable for video games or TV shows to continue grifting to, appease these people that literally do not give a shit about you. So, in my opinion, which is worth not so much, not as a political analyst, just as a chaotic neutral party in all of this, shit's going to get really interesting. And I am excited to see a future that is much more focused on the individual's freedom of speech as opposed to on the media machine's coverage of certain instances and literally hyperbolically describing them in the most retarded way possible.
Was the case where you were not able to have certain opinions about certain topics like that. J.K. Rowling had controversial opinions about trans people. Whether you agree with them or not, you have to acknowledge that they were controversial with a lot of people. And because of that, people didn't want Harry Potter existing anymore, right? And I think that after you...
And it failed miserably.
After that kind of reaches its logical conclusion, where it's no longer seen as a reasonable response, and now it's just like an overcorrection that is fueled primarily by anger and frustration, then you're really going to see people kind of lose interest with that type of movement. And I think that's...
The movement's dead. Movement's cooked.
Exactly what's happened. I think that a lot of people are just tired of having their opinions dictated to them. They're tired of not being able to think things that they believe are just a priori knowledge. Like, this is just, it is known to be the case. Obviously, there's the difference between men and women, etc. And this big split has happened. And now there aren't the same censorship apparatuses that maintain the previous power structure.
100%. And I think a really good example of this is the way a relationship is described between an old man and a young woman versus how the relationship is described between an old woman and a young man. Right? If you look at these articles that talk about this shit, they'll talk about the age gap and the power imbalance and the abusiveness of a relationship that between two consensual adults if the man is way older than the woman. And then if the woman is way older than the man, it's like, you go, girl. Hell yeah. You're so awesome the way you do that. Shit, you're so cool. And you look at the absolute insanity of the double standard of media coverage of something that, in my opinion, is the most basic shit in the universe, where it's like a rules for thee but not for me situation, and people feel like they have the ability to do this shit, and people don't love this crap, and it's dying. And that's what we're looking at right now. We're looking at a complete collapse of bullshit people trying to just force opinions that do not make sense and that are false, hypocritically false, down your throats.
And so you're seeing tons of people now speaking out against it, and really nothing happening because of it, for better or for worse, again. And so I think you're going to continue seeing that happen.
The Hag Maxer double standard. True. Someone should write a thesis on that.
You're going to continue seeing people pushing back against these mainstream narratives. And I think that the pushback will eventually become just as oppressive as the narrative originally was.
That's the pendulum. That's the pendulum. It always swings. It always swings. At some point, people are going to talk about how people have too much free speech. I know that that sounds like the most insane thing in the world, because I think everyone agrees that freedom of speech is good. But I guarantee you, give it 10 years. This is a 10-year Nux prediction. Give it 10 years, and people will be talking about how there is too much freedom of speech. The pendulum's gonna swing. The pendulum was all the way on that side, and now it's kind of flying the other direction at breakneck pace.
Because that's the way the pendulum always swings.
God damn it, he has to stop using my analogies. But the point is clear. The point is obvious. Anti-establishment is always gonna slowly but surely be more powerful than the establishment, People are going to recognize, they're going to wake up, they're going to go to the anti-establishment, they're going to take down the establishment, and then the former anti-establishment will just become the next establishment for a new anti-establishment to rise up and destroy. Guys, welcome to reality. It's shit. Things happen that you're not going to like. And now let's be honest. You can either cry about the nihilistic existence that you have, or you could laugh at the chaos. And that's what I do.
Things always keep going until there's too much, and they always stop when there's too little, right? That's it. And so, you know, people love to radicalize, people love to become extreme, and I think the internet has provided a perfect place for people to radicalize themselves.
100%. Think about without the internet, all right? Think about life without the internet, just for a second. These people aren't necessarily all going to become super mega fucking radical people, because even the most radical people in their lives probably aren't that radical. But on the internet, you can literally get every extreme with a click of your finger.
And I think it's happened because of the lack of meaning with religion. I think it's happened because of the lack of meaning with, you know, gainful employment. I think it's happened with the lack of meaning culturally. There's no sense of, like, you know, shared culture in the U.S., at least not as much as whenever I was a kid.
I don't know. I don't know if that's it, in my opinion. I do think that the personal structures now aren't necessarily just among, like, friends and family and neighborhood and religion or system and community as much as they are on the internet. And on the internet, since you have such a hodgepodge and mix of people, you can literally fall in vogue with extremists, because that is what every algorithm is going to push you towards. So I think that that's one point. And the other major reason as to why I think people are doing in this is because they don't have role models in real life anymore. Right now, most people's role models are people that they see on the internet. It's like, oh, I want to be just like PewDiePie. I want to be like Mr. Beast. All right, I want to be like Ronaldo. All right, whatever. Like these people, the role models of the young people of this generation are people on the internet instead of people in real life. When someone says that their role model is their dad, that person is awesome, you know? And that dad is awesome. But that's ultimately what it's supposed to be. And now that you don't have parents being their children's role models, because the parents don't even raise their kids, and instead of raising their kids, they just give them iPads, it's like, not gonna be surprised.
And I think you put all these things together.
Parasocial role models, true. And the thing is, it's like, imagine being a Mr. Beast role model, all right? Mr. Beast is my role model. He's so good. He gives so much to charity. He's rich. He's successful. He does all the things. Then it turns out, oh, he hires pedophiles, and his friend's a pedophile, and his other friend's probably a pedophile, and he's allegedly a crypto scammer, and he's faking videos, and his charity videos are kind of overblown, and that was my role model. Well, anyway, on to the next role model, Andrew Tate. Falsely accused.
And you have an existential crisis that an individual has, and they're looking for anybody to replace that. And where a lot of these, like, socio-political movements come from.
All right, people in my chat are saying I'm your role model. I assume you're being sarcastic. I should not be anyone's role model. I'm some blue fucker on the internet, all right? I should not be your role model. You don't know anything about me. Literally, you don't know anything about me in my personal life. You don't know anything about Asmongold in his personal life. You don't know anything about any of us, okay? We should not be your role models. Your role models have got to be fucking people in reality.
That's why you're seeing a lot of people get back more into religion now. I think that religion is making a pretty big comeback, and I think
religion's always been back. I think you just haven't noticed it because for some reason on the internet, it's okay to hate on religious people. And now that you have religious people also have the ability to have freedom of speech and hate on not religious people, because like this, in my opinion, was a double standard. Okay, you'd have someone say online that Muslims are archaic or whatever, and they would not get banned on old Twitter. And then you'd have a Muslim saying that gay marriage is an abomination against God, and they would get banned for hate speech. So if that was the way reality was in the past, you'd all of a sudden only see the shit on religion party and never the religion shit on somebody else's ideology party. But now that everyone can say whatever the fuck they want on Twitter, you're going to see an equal amount of that. I don't think religion ever fell off. I think you were primed to think religion fell off.
The reason for that is because people are looking for that antidote of modern existence. They're looking for like the way that they can order the world that makes sense, because the way that people are talking about it on the internet really doesn't. And so I wanted to talk about this because I think it's a very interesting thing, and I think it's going to shift the way that all media is portrayed. Now, obviously, things like this are a very big boat. It takes a long time to turn, but you can already see that happening with people that had previously like problematic opinions, etc., just kind of get ignored in a way that I don't think would have happened 3 or 4 years ago.
True.
And
True. People at this point, people could say shit. People could just say shit. Whether it's extreme right-wing bullshit on Twitter or it's extreme left-wing bullshit on Twitch, like, people could just say whatever the fuck they want, and they'll find a niche and a massive platform that will literally just accept them anyway, and it does not matter. But on the bright side, at least we all know that these people are potentially full of shit. I think everyone has to recognize that most of the information they see online is probably going to be fake. And if you go into the internet age with that perspective, that is a plus.
If you want my personal opinion on the whole thing, I think that's a good thing. I feel like the amount of, as I said before, emotional blackmail and censorship and compelled speech that was on the internet for, I'd say the last, like from 2017 or 18 to like 2022, somewhere around there.
That was probably when it became super obvious, but I do think even before, I think there's always been the compelled fake speech. I think that people had enough of a platform to realize it was fake in the 2017-ish era, but it was still being smacked down, and that's what caused the revolution to literally bubble over right now with Trump's victory. When people realize that they are just literally being lied to.
There, I think that it did radicalize a lot of people. I wouldn't really consider myself radicalized, but I would consider myself very aware. And now I am...
That's what every radicalized person says.
Extremely skeptical of any type of censorship. I'm very skeptical of any type of, compelled thought or compelled speech. And I'm in general the kind of guy that believes that the best, reaction to, bad speech is good speech that counters it. And, in the free marketplace of ideas, the best ideas will usually win out. So I wanted to make this video and talk about it because I've never really had the opportunity to, like, really formulate what I really believe with this kind of stuff. And hopefully you guys can kind of see how this shift has happened. And
I do see the shift happen. I don't know if I necessarily agree with all of his points, per se, as I've, made clear throughout my commentary. But I do agree with the broad strokes of the fact that absolutely there is an insane shift right now, I think, to anti-establishment from establishment. I think that's really what it comes down to.
How you've observed it yourself, and I'd be curious in the comments other kind of barometers or like temperature checks you've seen and where you've kind of seen, oh wow, yeah, things really are different now. And I feel like we're going to continue seeing them become more and more different than what they were. And in general, I can see that becoming a bad thing, but also, especially with people being able to think for themselves and no compelled speech, etc.
We'll see.
And I think this is a very good thing. So overall, I do think it was all pretty much started with Elon Musk buying Twitter, because it was the first break in the giant wall of thought policing and compelled thought on the internet. As soon as Twitter opened up, then everybody came through and exposed all of the weaknesses in that ideology.
I don't know. I feel like it was such a much different build-up. I don't think it was any one given thing. I'll give you an example. I think the fact that the Joe Rogan podcast is as big as it is an example of the vibe shift. Like, why are people gonna listen to Joe Rogan, some old bald guy? Like, why are they gonna listen to him talk about fucking science shit? Like, why does anyone care? And ultimately, because he actually will have guests from every different, political leaning and alignment and culture, and he will talk to them about anything, and he will actually introduce topics that would be considered taboo in certain mainstream forums. So you have someone like Joe Rogan with such a successful podcast of just people listening. In my opinion, what they like hearing on the Joe Rogan podcast is the fact that they're hearing a real human discuss anything with anyone and not manipulating and censoring bullshit online. And I think that is a big turning point. The fact that people were listening to the Joe Rogan podcast over fucking other shit. Joe Rogan has some insane fucking takes. Like, Joe Rogan says the earth is flat. The earth can't be flat because how could there be so many people in on this conspiracy? But then he says that the moon landing might be fake. Like, bro, that's obviously fucking stupid. Okay, listen, if your reasoning for the Earth flat theory being false is because so many people would be in on it, you know how many people would need to be in on the fucking moon landing being fake? That the Russians and the Americans, like, they would need to team up to make this whole shit, you know? But he does actually ask good faith questions, in my opinion. He wants to learn about things in different areas, and he's not censored. And it's because of these reasons that someone like Joe Rogan became listened to. I think that was also a sign of the cultural shift. I think Elon Musk was a symptom of people being fed up with the establishment, not the cure. But I think Trump literally just tore down the fucking shit. Like, bro wants to build walls, but he just tore down a big one, for sure.
And I think it pretty much destroyed it. So, we'll see how things go. Obviously, you know, anything like this doesn't happen overnight. But I've really found it to be incredibly interesting and compelling to watch and experience over the last probably 3 or 4 years. 2 or 3 years, hard really to say. And I'm curious to see where it's going to go. And that's about it, guys. So let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, that was a good video. I think he definitely made a good video. And I do like that this discussion is happening, because I think it's important for people to recognize what is going on in reality. And I think people need to realize that reality is in a counterculture thing, system. Again, I don't think it's necessarily what Trump did. It's the fact that he actually won. And I want to make that clear distinction, you know? You can tell he showered. True! Bro showered and came back like that shit. Internet makes 20% sound like the majority and 80% sound like the minority. Again, true, but it depends what platform you're on and what shit you're listening to. See, here's the thing. I am Jewish. So when I see anti-Semitism, it obviously affects me more than when I see, let's say, racism against a different race, because this one is literally affects me. All right, when I see Myron, fresh and fit, talk about how Jews need to die and shit and get deported and whatever, like, obviously that is going to affect me more than I'm going to see somebody say something about some other race. So that said, you listen to one of those and your whole fucking feed becomes anti-Semitism. You know, like that's just the reality we're in. Mudahar had the same exact situation. He had anti-Indian racism flooding his Twitter feed for the same exact reason. It affects him personally. He looks at it one time and then it's like, oh shit, we'll send you more of this. It's like, and that is everywhere. And that is why, in my opinion, I'm happy that there's a freedom of speech on Twitter. And I am also happy that I am not on Twitter. Thank you so much for being here. Take care of your mental health. Recognize the fact that we're in a state of anti-establishment. And recognize the fact that all this fucking bullshit online is that exactly. It's bullshit. All right? You got to make meaningful relationships not online too. And that is coming from a parasocial, blue, talking PNG like me. Stay weird, fam. Like, subscribe, and this video was streamed live on kick.com/Nuxanor. See you there. Stay weird, fam.